Thank you all for coming down here. What I'll always think of as the Day now.
Good. All right. I love it.
I want to tell you all too is Glenn Morgan is kind of circulating around. If you want to get involved in some local issues and finding out how to better promote and get the word about what's happening in your city or town, talk to Glenn. There's no better person that's able to help. He's right here at the Freedom Foundation. And then I was thinking about Wendy's stories, and unfortunately these stories are becoming more and more common. Government overregulation, and really without any need, and just really hurting and harming people. And when I saw the sign here, American Exceptionalism, it reminds me of my story, which is my great-grandparents were from Czechoslovakia. And at the tail end of World War II, the Russians occupied, and they came to my great-grandfather, who at the time was a jewelry maker. He plated gold and silver jewelry. He employed over 100 people. He was considered to be a fairly wealthy person at the time. And the Russians came to him and said, "Today we own your business. You can continue to work there, but we now own it." That day, my great-grandfather took my grandmother, and he told her that she had to leave. And she took my mother in her arms and walked 150 miles out of Czechoslovakia. She met an American serviceman. She worked for the U.S. Army in Germany for a number of years, and then immigrated to America, where they lived in Oklahoma. They bought one house and lived there their whole life, where I used to wake up and go to my grandfather's house, and he would tell me, you can do anything you want in America. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I lived essentially my entire adult life thinking that our freedom is inevitable. That no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bad the elected officials get, that I can look myself in the mirror and I can pull myself up and I can work a little bit harder and I can make things happen. But when you look out and you think about all this regulation, you start to wonder, can I really do that? And I believe we're at a tipping point. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about Agenda 21, and there's a new word that's overtaking our government. It's called sustainability. And there's any kind of do-gooding message out there, these excuses for regulation. And it might be saving the pocket gopher, or saving the Palouse earthworm, or now the 24 species of slugs and snails that they want to save. You name it. Could be global warming, could be climate change. All of this stuff is designed to make it harder to live in the rural areas and to move people into these dense urban cores where they can tax you from everything from transportation to your energy use, control you and fee you. And I heard a little bit about Karl Marx out here earlier, and the #1 plank from the Communist Manifesto. Some of you know it here. #1 plank is the abolition of all rights of property. So Karl Marx knew the way to take a capitalist society and move it to a communist society was to remove you from your property. The left thinks of this as a wealth generation scheme, and they think it's an idea of social injustice if somebody can actually gain more wealth and work harder and build their wealth. And I thought I would take just a couple of minutes and give you a couple of examples of what some of this stuff looks like, and these trickle-down effects from Agenda 21 and the UN into your local governments. And I've been testifying all over, and I talk to these people, and I see some testimonies in these local governments where people go up and say, "Hey, get Agenda 21, it's the UN," and the local officials are looking saying, "I don't even know what Agenda 21, and I don't even, what do you mean the UN? There's nobody with blue helmets around here," and they look at you like you're crazy, because it's trickled, that policy has trickled so far down into your local government. At our state government, it looks like something like an NGO called Puget Sound Partnership, and these agencies that have no regulatory authority. I don't know about you, but if there's a decision made in my government, I want to be able to march down here and look at my representative in the whites of his eyes and tell him to change it. I don't want to have this body that I can't respond to, like the Puget Sound Partnership recently found to be wasting tons of money. And they're setting an agenda that's trickling down into our local governments. And they're using the strong arm of the governor to make sure that these policies happen, yet there's no accountability. In the local governments, it looks like ICLEI. There's ICLEI all over our state in these local governments, but there's good news out there. Washougal, last year, kicked it out. SQUIM, 2 months ago, kicked it out. You know, it's out in Clallam County. And I talked to them in April of this year, and we started a conversation about Agenda 21 and about ICLEI. Clint Didier went out there last month and held a rally. They went down to the county and they made a bunch of noise about it. Great group. It's called the Concerned Citizens of Clallam County. They have about 800 people, and they get 100 or 200 people that show up. You know what I saw in the paper last week? Clallam County is going to kick it out of their town too. Out of the county. Yep. It's like Glenn said. You know, we don't really have a lot of choice. We have some choice about our elected officials, and hopefully we create a lot of awareness. We create fertile ground for electing good people in office. But we're not going to get them all good people. There will be bad people in making bad decisions. But if we create enough awareness in our local governments, even the bad people will be forced to make good decisions, just like they did in Clallam County. At our state government, it looks like the Growth Management Act. And we've had the Growth Management Act for 20 years, and I get up every day thinking I want to make major reforms to growth management or to repeal the Growth Management Act and the Shoreline Management Act. I know we're going to get there.
All right.
I know that's going to happen. You know how I know it? It's because Florida had theirs for 30 years, and last month they repealed it and they kicked their smart growth right out of Florida. The governor there said, you know, we want to do a couple things. We want a more competitive land supply. We want lower cost of housing. And we want economic prosperity in our state, and this is stopping us from getting it. And they booted it right out of there. So I know we can do that with growth management. I know that can happen here. I want to tell you, go to myfreedomfoundation.org and connect with us if you have local issues that you want us to work on. If you want to find out how to get more awareness about your issues out to your community, call Glenn Morgan. Connect with us there. We've got a couple things coming up. There's going to be a special session around the budget. We want to work really hard with all of you to come down here and talk to our legislators about how to cut the budget on these areas of the natural resources that are creating massive regulation, that are harming people. We need to get that kind of stuff out of our government and put it back into schools with our children. There's also in our regular session, we have a legislative priority. So connect with us and help us to find areas where we can make big property rights reforms that restore individual liberty to everybody in Washington. And most importantly, get involved. I love this line from Clint Didier. And he always encourages people to run for elected office, and I would encourage every one of you to run. He says, you know, the most common thing I hear is I've got too many skeletons in my closet. But what he tells everybody, he says, ask God forgiveness and stand up and be counted. So each and every one of you, I challenge you, go run for an elected office. If it's from dog catcher up to county commissioner, get out and get your feet wet. If you're a little bit scared, get involved in a local issue. ICLEI is a great one to get around, or another issue that's important to you in your local communities, and start your feet moving and get rolling. So anyway, let's go get them. Let's get ICLEI out of our town.